Hello, students. Welcome to the financial analysis class for Robobryce. So, students, today, if I'm not mistaken, we will effectively work on the financial analysis part of this organization, Robobryce. Now, students, what I have done is I have effectively calculated the changes compared with the previous year to the present year. So if I'm not mistaken, students, I will do a small calculation here and I'll show you how the changes were done so that it will be very, very easier for you all to understand the application as well. Now, if you generally see 14,911, 13,867. Now, if you divide it by 13,867, multiplied by the 100, you will effectively get the change. That is, the difference between these two is the change in simple language. And you compare the change with the previous year. So that's how you calculate the growth. I believe that is very clear for the students at the moment, how the growth is effectively calculated. So students, our role now is not to do calculations because you are aware that nowadays we have a lot of softwares in the market which will be already doing the calculation functions even better than human beings as well. So students, if you observe in this case, what we can effectively consider is the following. That is, the revenue growth of our organization is just 7.53. But if you observe the competitor, Pavrobot's revenue growth is 9.89%. That means they are leading compared with us. That is the point of view that you have to keep in mind. They are leading compared with us, if I'm not mistaken. So students, now one thing, when the revenues are changing, we also have to consider the operating profit margins, what they produce. Now you observe the operating profit margin of our company is relatively lower compared with Pavrobots. Now, if you see Pavrobots, you can feel it. They are charging a little bit of higher. And if you see here, it's a little bit of lower comparatively. Now, you observe this carefully that the revenue is the key generator for everything. If the revenue reduces, there are high chances there can be fall in the stock prices as well. So first thing, what we have to just have a glimpse of the extracts of the competitors' financial statements. Now, again, I'm repeating this so that it will be very easier for you all to catch it up or follow it up. So Robobryce is one of the 6 major companies that competes for the design and implementation of automated warehouse. So I'll write down here only 6 major companies are effectively there in the market. So it's a very much of a control type of entity or the industry. Its most direct competitors within the market of Pavrobot, which also used in Tesla. Pavrobot's manufacturing interests are restricted to autonomous products such as carousels and mobile robots. The company does not manufacture non-autonomous products. Indeed, it sometimes specifies Robobryce shelves when it designed for clients' warehouse. So, if you see, non-autonomous products are not at all manufactured by our competitor. That means, students, we are currently manufacturing that. So, can I just write down? We have a factory in Dahlan. Correct, no, students, if I'm not mistaken. So in our analysis, this factory is very, very important. Now you see here the Dahlan factory. Now what they are effectively saying, students, the Dahlan factory produces forklifts, hand trucks, and shelving. And the Teslan factory, that is the local country, our country factory, is producing the horizontal carousel, vertical carousel, and the mobile robots as well. So students, if you observe, the practical point of view is this Dahlan factory. Now, effectively, you see, students, this factory has how many staffs? This factory has how many staff, students? This factory has 7,000 staffs. But if you observe the Tesla factory, this factory has how many staff, students? This factory has how many staff, students? This factory has 5,000 staffs, very clearly and very transparently as well. So in this case, we can understand we are currently having a problem with overstaffing in Darland. And a good thing is the staffs are paid a very low salary. I agree with you. They're not paid a very high salary, but The problem is students, are they adding value to the organization is the question that we have to ask in this particular case. But if you see the Tesla factory, you see here students, 5,000 staffs are there. So in that case, we can't do anything if I'm not mistaken. So this is very important. Valuable staffs such as research and development staffs, all are there in this case. So students, can I quickly get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students, if you are clear with this staff issue we are effectively facing? One of the reason why our OP is reducing is maybe because our cost is very high compared with our competitor, because our competitor is outsourcing. Correct, no, students, if I'm not mistaken. Agree? But we are still producing the items which currently is not in the market. And these outsourcing items doesn't have patents generally. Very, very much of mechanical items anyone can produce. So in that case, we may have a bigger challenge. Like Apple sometimes outsources its products to Foxconn, which is in China. So students, can I quickly get a Y in the chat box, students, if you understood that correlation? That is, our competitor doesn't focus on producing non-autonomous items, but we are effectively producing both of these items. So this is how you have to think differently, because I think if you had an understanding, it will give you a better view and a better clarity. So the first thing what I have to consider, students, is, if I'm not mistaken, Fab robots are effectively having a better growth since they are only focusing on autonomous supply, only focusing on autonomous supply. That is correct, no, students? They are only focusing on autonomous supply, autonomous supply. I believe that is very, very clear and transparent. Further, they outsource non-autonomous operations to, if I'm not mistaken, other players, including Robobryce. Correct, no, students? They effectively do this and effectively supply this even for non-players as well. Now, the next thing, students, if I'm not mistaken, I believe everyone has got the clarity properly. So this is one very, very, very important factor that we have to consider. I believe that everyone is clear with that. So the next thing, students, if I'm not mistaken, there are chances of better features and functions in Pavrobots products. Correct, no, students, if I'm not mistaken. I'll just quickly take you to one thing, students. If you see the software development cost, now you see property, plant, and equipment, these guys have gone to 8.70. And if you see software and development cost, it's again competing with this very close. But you see property, plant, and equipment 8.70. They have invested more in their capital expenses. So can I just put a highlighting part for that, students? Because observe it very clearly, the capex has been little more compared with our organization with Power Robot, if I'm not mistaken. There is an increase in the PPE where the capex is increasing. Capex is, students, increasing. Can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students, if you are clear with that point of view, students? Can I quickly get a confirmation from you all in the chat box if I'm not mistaken? Thank you. Thank you. Now, maybe that is one reason that there is a comparative growth also. And students, although we are effectively having a higher selling price. Now see, Pavrobot is charging 24%. That means for each sales they make a profit of 24. If they make a sale of 100, 24 will be their operating profit. But if we make a sale of 100, it will be only 22. The rationale behind this is maybe development of new technology. Now, students, if I'm not mistaken, I'll just give you some idea. LiDAR technology is something that we have to keep in mind because these technological terms is very, very crucial for the entire students, if I'm not mistaken. And the other thing, students, if I'm not mistaken, I'll just come to you all. That is AMR technology, if I'm not mistaken. Just to give you the idea, students, we have the two types of technology which is very, very, very important in this R to G. That is the new trend. What is the AGV, if I'm not mistaken, and the other one is AMR. So students, if you observe, I believe that you would have understood that very clearly how this AGV and automated guided vehicles, but these things will stop in case if there is any obstacle in the pathway. But autonomous mobile robots are effectively better. So students, I can just mention that also for your understanding because the speed is very, very crucial within the warehouse if our items are doing well. And then students, this mobile code robot coordination, now mixed will be the best one because one is centralized where it's slow, but distributed is artificial intelligence. The robots make their decision. So students, if I'm not mistaken, I'll write down here, better AGV and AMR. Correct, no, students? Automatic guided vehicles and automated mobile robots by Pav Robots. Maybe that, students, maybe that may be one reason, if I'm not mistaken, at the moment. Now, students, coming to the next one. Now, if you see, that is the thinking perspective of why there is a revenue growth for our competitor, although they are charging more. The next thing, students, if I'm not mistaken, anything that you have thought, you can tell me. Anything that you all have thought, students, like Dr. Sharmin, anything did you think other than this for the reason for revenue growth?
No, nothing
No,
different.
nothing. Okay. Miss Anna, madam, did you think anything new towards the revenue growth?
No, so I too thought about the superiority of the products, maybe because they are
Th-
investing more on these things.
Thank
Uh,
you.
uh,
Thank you.
uh,
So other students just want to get that confirmation because students in SCS, you should never follow the teacher. You should follow your way of thinking. And MCS, OCF, yes, I would have contributed. But SCS is your pure observation. Other students, anything that you like to tell will be a great point. So I can move forward with the operating cost so that you will understand it even better. Now you see the operating cost, you see Robots has a higher operating cost. But if you see Robobryce has a very lower operating cost, one thing is the Dahlan factory. They are somewhat saving money from that, if I'm not mistaken. Now, another problem, if I'm not mistaken, is the transportation cost. Because when your factory is in other country and you need to bring down the goods to your country, still there will be cheap labor, but the problem is your country currency is depreciating. Students, if you observe, you see Darland is a foreign country. Correct me, students, if I'm not mistaken. And you observe here, there is a loss on translation. Can you observe that, students? There is a loss on translation, both of the organizations, financial statements. So you have to be very, very careful. You have to be very much careful relating to that because your factory is there in Darlan, so there may be cheap labor, but still, when you're bringing the goods to your home country, still there will be a translation issue that would have taken place at the end. So, students, if I'm not mistaken, I'll just go with that point of view on the operating cost, if I'm not mistaken. Pav robots may have a better infrastructure, maybe better infrastructure with regards to total quality management, with regards to total quality management, with regards to total quality management, and also there are chances that the company will be able to have a better superior technological features. That is one more thing here, technological features, if I'm not mistaken, technological features. That is one factor that students needs to be aware and certain of, because the infrastructure investments. And another thing, students, we may have a lower cost in Darlan. Correct, no, students? We may have a lower cost in Darlan, but the problem is the currency in Teslan is weaker. Therefore, when importing or when bringing down the goods, there can be some impact to the savings we made as well. That is one more challenge that we are effectively facing, and I believe that the entire students are very much clear with this operating cost. Now, one thing, students, I'm little bit concerned is like this. Now you see here, Teslant Food opens light out warehouse. Now you see this was designed and installed by Robobryce. Correct, no, students? Now you see here Teslant Food lights out warehouse. Now, is this showing any much performance in our numbers? Now this opening up a lights out warehouse, does it reflect anything in the financial statements? Now, that is one question that we have to ask, because we don't see a significant growth in our finances, although we have started a light out warehouse. Correct, no, doctor, if I'm not mistaken. Doctor, do you observe that? We don't see any
Yeah.
much big difference. So I think in the strategic level, we are effectively having poor pricing also. What do you think, doctor? Because we are giving things at a very minimal price or a very much poor price, and effectively there is nothing. And one thing, students, we have operating cost, but do we have anything related to marketing cost? Do we have anything related to marketing cost? No, right? Because one thing in our financial statement, they have only given operating cost. Now, if you see, there needs to be some element called marketing cost, and that's not mentioned in our financial statements. Correct me if I'm wrong, students. Because if you are inventing or if you are designing new arenas or new facilities to other players, there needs to be some promotion to create the awareness. But here you don't see any promotions to create awareness. So there is one technical issues to be considered. So students, can I quickly get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students, if you got that point of view, students? Because there is a new facility that we have opened, and it's popular also in the Teslan Food Lighthouse Warehouse, but we are not able to see anything. So I'll just write down here a very, very important point. The lights out warehouse for beef storage in Teslan Foods is a great service, but we are not seeing any, I can say, results in the financial statements. That is one big challenge we have. Quickly, can we see whether are we giving these things on credit? Both are 16.38. Now let's see the trade receivable days. Oh my God, it's 75 days, 69 days, 70 days, 66 days. So effectively, as I told you, we are a business which is dependent on another business. Correct, no, doctor, if I'm not mistaken. Because at the end, if the warehouse businesses closes down, we lose our business. So in this case, I think although only 6 players are there, still 75 days credit term is a very significant time period. Even if you see Pavrobots also, our competitor also giving the same rate, it's a bigger challenge if I'm not mistaken. So that is one thing. So can I just write down here one more point? The credit policies in the industry, looks very much poor to the producer, since in this industry, in this industry, the consumers are powerful. Consumers are powerful because students, the main consumer is warehouses. They are very, very powerful because in this case, something wrong happens. The warehouse closes down, we lose our business. So students, I believe that's a very, 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 very important point that we have to keep in mind, because your thought process should be very different, very futuristic, and very much presentable to the situation. So this is one factor, if I'm not mistaken. The lighthouse of warehouse, the beef storage, that's nothing reflected in the financial statements, which is a bigger concern for us. Why? And I'll just go through some other articles quickly. Supermarket price war. Now, students, if you see, there is a supermarket price war taking place, but still we have not spent much here. Now, the next one, students, if you see mixed news for warehouse staffs, that is also not much important. The research and development cost doesn't come in revenue. The research and development cost will effectively capitalized. That's what here the software development cost. We are not going to the basis of normal research and development cost. This is basically the research and development cost that is capitalized, already added to the financial statements. Now, students, I believe this is getting clearer for you all at the moment. I believe everyone has got these thinking aspects very clearly, and I'll write down here. And there is no marketing cost. There is no, what, students? Marketing cost. Correct, no, doctor, if I'm not mistaken, marketing cost or selling cost.
Yes.
So here we have a big challenge. And can we just go through our board of directors quickly? Now, if you look at our board of directors, let's see who is taking care of marketing. We have Amon Macaulay, the Chief Operating Officer for Marketing. And do we have anyone for product development is there, but business development, do we have anyone for business development in our business, in our board business development? I don't think so. Doctor, do you see anyone for business development? If I'm not mistaken, no, right?
No, we have research and development, but not business development.
Business, because students, you understand one thing, business development is very crucial because B2B business, not consumer. So consumer means anyway, the population is very high. But if you see producers or B2B sector, the population is comparatively lower. So students, I believe this gives you a better clarity at the moment. So if I'm not mistaken, students, let's move forward with more technical analysis so that it gives you better understanding and idea also. So this is one biggest challenge that we have at the moment, and I'll just give some suggestions. What we can request from the management is there can be a cost segment between two factories, because we have two factories. We don't know which is the high cost factory. At the moment, we think Teslan may be the higher, but we don't know the foreign currency impact that is there. When the foreign currency impact is there, it will be again another bigger challenge for us. Now, students, let's move forward with the next one, that is the operating profit. Now, if you see operating profit is 15.37%, and this is 22.66%, if I'm not mistaken. Now, in this case, students, the power robots, you see, profits are growing better than us, if I'm not mistaken. And we don't see any much of information given about them. But one thing we can understand is if they have outsourced their non-autonomous activities to us, that means they are effectively having superior quality autonomous products. That's what they are maybe doing well in the market. So that is one reason. And then students, if I'm not mistaken, the profit before tax. Now, one thing, students, the taxation growth, if you observe, students, for our power robots, it is 46. Can you remember there is a tax structure called progressive tax structure? That means when the income increases, the tax will increase. Can you recall that, students? There is something called progressive taxation. So can I write down here, students? This is progressive taxation. Progressive taxation in Teslan. Because if you see, students, there needs to be a linearity in the growth in the taxation. But if you observe this very clearly, students, you can observe the tax paid by our competitor is comparatively higher compared with us. Now here I can write down here the main application here. The company Pavrobot has effectively eliminated non-value adding activities. Non-value adding what, students? Activities. Non-value adding activities. Students, within brackets, can I write down here lean manufacturing? What is that, students? Lean manufacturing by outsourcing non-autonomous products. By outsourcing non-autonomous what, students? Products. Make sense or doesn't make sense, students? Of course, it makes sense. Can I quickly get a double Y in the chat box, students, if you are clear with that, students? Can I quickly get a double Y in the chat box, students, if you are fine with that? Because that may be one reason they are doing even better than us. For instance, new features. For instance, new features such as smart AGV and smart AMR. That means using mobile phone, you can control these things. No need specialized knowledge also. That is also one challenge now, students. Without specialized knowledge, if you can control anything, you are the superior product. That's how the new trend works. If your product needs specialized knowledge in 2023, that means your product will have a very hard time in the market. Now, ChatGPT, do you need any specialized knowledge? No, it's very simple. So they will be dominating the product in the future. So finance cost, students, there is no change. Since both companies have not increased the financial borrowing. They have not increased the financial borrowing. They're continuing as usual. And then, students, I'll write down the profit before tax. Pavrobot has performed better. Since they have focused well on the market, for autonomous products. Only autonomous products they are effectively focusing on. And I can effectively say Dalan factory needs to be restructured. Students, there can be a question on this. Dalan factory getting what, students? Restructured. Doctor, ethical issue, can there be coming, doctor? Yes or no? You're going to reduce the staff count. You can reduce the employee count. A bribery can come, students, because this is not a country where the rules are very strong. So I'll write down here downsizing. Now, students, in strategic case study, questions are very practical. Downsizing, then I'll write down here bribery. Bribery can come for sure, because that factory itself is something related. I think Hamzat may know very, very well, because bribery, everything is coming now in the exam. Correct, no, Hamzat, if I'm not mistaken, like this situation. But in the textbook, I don't think they are effectively considering those things. So can I quickly get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students, if you are fine with this? Dalan factory needs to be restructured. Bribery, downsizing, those factors can come. Staff resistance can take place. So many things are there. So profit after tax, once again, the company Pavrobot has performed better. So in this case, on numbers point of view, the performances are good for Pavrobot. Okay, now property, plant and equipment, students, the investments is higher for Pavrobots. Maybe new plants and specialized machineries for manufacturing. Goodwill, no change. That means there is no acquisition during the year. Students, so that is the ideology of that. So can I write down here? Potential acquisition can happen. Correct no, students, if I'm not mistaken. I can effectively say, students, there are high chances of vertical integration, students. Vertical integration. Within brackets, I'll write down supply chain. The supply chain, something can happen. We can buy a warehouse company. Like last time, can you all remember, students? We can buy a warehouse company and sell our products. So we can effectively have our online store also, if I'm not mistaken. Because doctor, can you remember in case these robots, can that have data analytics within that, doctor? Because there was something called barcode robot, if I'm not mistaken. It will know the barcode and it will collect the goods. Correct no, doctor, if I'm not mistaken. So there is high chances that barcode is the data, and using the barcode data, you can start your online store where you know what are the goods people like, what are the goods people don't like. Correct? It's unethical, but can start. Just keep in mind. So software development cost, I'll write down here the WMS software and other operating systems for the robots will be invested as well. And system upgrades. Cyber risk can come, students. There can be an upgrade. So I'll write down here one question that can come in the exam. A system update making robots slow or not having the understanding as previous. That can happen, students. Do you get that point of view, students? It can effectively happen. I believe everyone is clear with that point. So you see the next one, the inventory. If you see here, it's 27.747. The components to manufacture may be higher. And also the quality of the products, because they are not given anything regarding unit, the quality of the products may be better. Because students, sometimes when you're producing high quality products, your inventory value will be better for PAV robots. So that is one factor that you have to just keep in mind on this growth analysis. Trade receivable, both are going at the same rate. I'll write down here, since B2B business, the trade receivable will be the same. Correct now, students, if I'm not mistaken. B2B same. Since client-based business, that means contracts are generally for a long term. Then students, if you see business bank balance, there is an improvement in the bank balance. Maybe not a big number, because if you see the numbers is strong, maybe for working capital needs, that is also one more thing. Trade payables, you see, students, 19.5, 19.6. Again, the suppliers are confident on repayment. So we can see a growth. Because students, if the suppliers are not happy with your financial management, you won't have a growth. Now, the important thing for us is share capital balance, nothing happened. Borrowing, nothing happened. So there will be a sure question, that is compulsory question in the examination. Financing decision. Hamzat, correct no? Hamzat, one question will come on what? Financing decision.
Yeah,
100%. Definitely they will ask you, students, every time. So can you write down here financing? I'll teach you how to write the answer, students, but financing decision, every time it will come. And students who did management case study, be very careful. Not that way of writing, the writing changes. Doctor, are you clear what I'm saying? Doctor, now in MCS, it's very easy. You just say debt or equity. Correct no, doctor, if I'm not mistaken. And then you effectively explain the impact to the weighted average cost of capital. Agree no, doctor, if I'm not mistaken. But in this case, you have to write little differently, because you are in the strategic level, because you are not considered to think about the technical knowledge. If you are racing through share capital, you have to think what is the value additions we can give to the shareholders in the future, because they need to get confident. Now, example, students, the dividend payout is 22.72 and 21.81. I'll just make sure this is also proper for you all. This is the dividend payout. And then students, the percentage wise, and can you remember students, I calculated the interest was 10%. Can you remember in the last class, interest was how many percent?
Yes, sir.
10%.
Yeah,
Now
for
see
both
here,
companies.
for both the companies, 1100. So I think it is 11,000 multiplied by 100. So if I'm not mistaken, 10%. Now see, the interest is 10%, students. Understand it very well. Interest is only 10% and the dividend is effectively 22%. So I'll just write down here.
Cost of equity is high, sir. No.
Cost of equity is very, very high. So I'll just write down here, just for your point of view. Interest rate is only 10%, students. Annual interest rate is only 10%. So if you see, you have to pay less interest and dividend is real high. And they have not managed financial management problem because too much of borrowing. I can say now, concept wise, you see debt is cheaper means you have to borrow debt. But still, if you go above a limit, it will be a challenge. That we will come to that later. But students, are you fine with this basic point on financing decision? Definitely one question will come. And Forex, it's a negative, students. Hedging. Can I write down here, students, hedging? And also, students, if I'm not mistaken, Forex risk management can come. Basics only. They may not ask you technical calculation, logical explanation. And return earning, students, if I'm not mistaken, free cash flow. I'll teach you that free cash flow means money that is there after you pay dividend. So I'll write down here cash flow after paying dividend. Cash flow after paying what, students? After paying what, students? After paying dividends. Cash flow after paying dividends. So students, can I quickly get a double Y in the chat box, students, if you are now getting the thinking aspects properly. The thinking aspects properly. We are not yet done with the ratios. We are only done with the growth analysis at the moment. And it looks very, very practical, very, very practical, very different, very much matured also. Students, I'll just ask you any questions you have on the growth analysis. Hamzat, everything is clear. Can I go to the ratio? Can I get
Yes, sir. It's clear, sir.
confirmation? It's
Yeah.
clear. Doctor, is it clear? Can I go for the next one?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Aina, madam, is it clear for you? Just
Yes,
asking.
sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Students, other students, please don't misunderstand. I'm not communicating with you. Please use the chat box because I'm not sure whether your mic systems are good or not good. That's the only reason I'm not talking to you all. So I'm going to the next one, students. Now, the margins, if you see operating profit margin, we are having less. Now, technically, students, you have to understand you need to know the economics logic. The economics logic is what when the price is low, the sales will be high. Correct, no, students? So that is called price elasticity of demand. Now, in this case, our margins are low, but our sales is also low. That effectively shows that our softwares, what we use, our quality is little bit backwards compared with Pav robots, because Pav robot is producing even far superior type of, I can say, AGV and ARM. Okay, so AMR. So students, the next one is profit before tax. Again, you see Pavrobots is dominating profit for the year. Pavrobot is dominating. We don't have other explanation regarding what is happening with the margins. So effectively, I'm going to combine these three together so that it will be like a direct explanation, because they have not given the classification of what has happened, how it has happened, what are the changes that needs to happen. Nothing has been given to date. So if I'm not mistaken, students, let's start working on the detailed point of view of analysis. So it will be very, very easier for you all to understand how this application will be directly affecting you. So let's write down the answer first. So I'll just write down here the company Favrobot has effectively produced a better quality in the therefore they are charging higher than Robobryce. Now, students, just to be even more precise and even more prayerful so that it will understand the application even better for you to think and apply. So if I'm not mistaken, I'll just write it down more and more in detail, more and more in application, if I'm not mistaken, is therefore another factor to consider is after sales service. Now, doctor, have they given anything with regards to after sales service? That means after you sell, do you have any type of services you give back to the warehouse, like maintenance services? Anything did they mention in this
No,
case? No.
we
So
have very
students,
little information about the case, about the
very
company.
little information, but you have to be skeptical. Students, the now if you see students, that the purpose of giving very little information is to increase your skepticism. Correct, no, students? If I'm not mistaken, the skepticism knowledge is very important. If I'm not mistaken, you have to be
Yeah.
very skeptic. That is true. Students, not lies. Very true. If you ask from anyone who has got good results in the exams, they think like a lawyer. So I'll just write down here. You have to think like a criminal lawyer. Think like a criminal lawyer. So when you have time, you watch Sherlock Holmes. It will give you more clarity on how to improve your thinking. So students, very important that skepticism is important here. Because doctor, I'll be very practical here. I'll speak to Hamzat because Hamzat is from the corporate. Hamzat, you are in strategic level or management level, Hamzat, at the moment?
Management level, sir.
And even management level, Hamzat, do you see, do they give so many information like what they gave you in the operational level? No, because 90% is skeptic only, and the rest is. And if you go to strategic level, students, very difficult. The reason is you may be in a very good seat and a very good car, but still the thinking is very hard, students.
In
So
this
this
case,
is like
sir,
a criminal.
like you said, in this case, there should be after sales, which we should assume and talk
We
about.
should assume and talk about. Now, if that is not coming to your mind, then you make a note of that. Why it is not coming? The trial and error. Now, doctor, do you feel the new structure of SCS? That is, MCS was like spoon feeding. Everything was there. Correct, no, doctor, if I'm not mistaken. But
Yeah, a lot of
if you see
assumptions here.
a lot of assumptions, but here, students, it's not like that. And your exam paper will be only you will pass if you have presence of mind, not classes, anything. Presence of mind, how you are thinking on that day. Rahul, can I get a Y in the chat box? Rahul, are you following this, Rahul? Because this is very important thing that you all have to keep in mind. Mr. Jose, everyone, very important and very serious students, because at the end of the day, our objective is you have to pass. Lennon, everyone should understand this very well, because it's mostly applied thinking. Okay, so students, moving forward, this is one thing. After sale service is another thing. Further, we are not aware of the terms of contract, because students, like 5 years period, 4 years period, nothing is given also. Now, ROC. Now, if you see ROC, again, PowerRobots is dominating because once again, students, more returns. But if you see our company is also fine. But again, I'll just write down here. Still, the ROC is also mainly because the sales have increased. Sales have increased by PowerRobots, since they have focused only on autonomous robots. That is the reason. Now, students, Samsung, if you consider, Samsung produces everything. Camera, they produce laptop, they do everything. But Apple, you see, they are exclusive. That's it. Now, asset turnover, students, the next thing, it is less than 1. Now, asset turnover 1 means, if I'm not mistaken, the logical idea behind 1. So I'll just guide you. 1 means the factory is fully utilized. Is fully what, students? Is fully utilized. That means your resources are fully utilized. Now, in this case, students, if you see both the organization, they are less than 1. That means around 34% or 0.34% is spare capacity. You get that point there, students. Can I quickly get a Y in the chat box, students? Now, if it is 0.66 means, okay, 0.66 plus 0.66 is the usage, you minus 1, then we have 0.34. That means 0.34 is spare capacity. What capacity, students? Spare capacity. Now, this is true. I'll tell you why. I'll ask that question for Hamzat. Hamzat, do you think these robots, what we produce, are they repeat purchased or it is purely based on the needs?
Based
on the needs.
yes.
No. Students, if you
Yeah.
observe other things, like example, students, toothpaste, it's repeat purchase. Once the toothpaste is over, we will buy another toothpaste. Once the soap is over, we will buy another soap. Once the perfume is over, we'll buy another perfume. But these
Yeah.
items, actually, people won't buy on a regular basis. So I'll write down here.
Only updation.
Only
is-
updation. The regular basis is not there. So can I write down here? Regular basis is not there. Regular basis is not there. Therefore, company needs to make sure to downsize. Students, 100% chance there can be a question on downsizing the factory, especially the Darlan factory. Students, I am sure confident that question can come with regards to Darlan factory, students, because we are not utilizing, and that makes sense also, students. We are only providing these goods as well. And one thing, students, if I'm not mistaken, can I ask you a question? The manufacturing in this is demand pull or demand push? What do you think, students? How does the manufacturing of these robots work? Demand pull or demand push? What do you think?
Demand pull, no?
Demand pull, no, student. Demand pull, students, because we don't go for demand push. We can't produce. If we go for demand push, yeah, we can be producing more than 100%. But the issue is it's demand pull. We only make sure we will produce these things in case there is an order arising from. I believe that is also very, very clear for you all, students. Can I quickly get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students, if you are getting the understanding and the ideology behind this? Excellent. Thank you very much, students. Thank you very much. Now, the next thing, students, if I'm not mistaken, the gearing ratio 48.99, 52.36, 52.07, and 56.44. All right, and the debt is relatively cheap. The debt is relatively what, students? It's relatively cheap in Tesla. That is the understanding. And I'll write down here 10% only annual interest. Therefore, both companies has exploited this opportunity. What, students? Opportunity. Do you agree with me, students? Yes or no? They have exploited this opportunity. Example, I can just say Japan. If you see countries like Japan, where the cost of living is very less, if you go to Japan and see all the financial statements will be having high gearing. The reason is their cost of capital is very low, students. Everyone borrows and only do business, and their country is also very strong. So it's very good for business in that aspect. So I believe that gives you a even better understanding and a better clarity at the moment. Can I quickly get a confirmation from you all? That is one thing. So I'll write on here, however, the long-term impact, impact needs to be considered. Needs to be what, students? Considered as well. Since after a point of leverage, there are chances of negative signals of what, students? Negative signals. That is the point of view. Now, students, you see America. Now, if you see America is a country which has the highest debt in the world. That is the truth. Now, Sri Lanka is another country which has the highest debt in the world. But there is a huge difference. Correct, no, Hamzat, if I'm not mistaken. Now, the
Yes,
difference is financial management.
Financial market, yeah.
Correct, no, students. Now, if you see Sri Lanka, they took loan without financial management. No idea about the interest rate, anything. But America has taken loan and they are doing with the financial management knowledge. Now, if you see a country like America, for them, high gearing is fine. The signaling effect is less. The reason is people know that there won't be any corruption to the top level. Correct, no, Hamzat, if I'm not mistaken. Corporate
Yes,
governance, we say.
And
But if-
it's a financial market actually.
Financial market also. And if you see country like Sri Lanka going for a heavy leverage is something risk. Because the governance is also not good and effectively the negative signals will happen. So students, I'll write down here, USA versus Sri Lanka. Now students, you have to understand it. Debt is risky. But if you know how to manage risk, debt it's very good. But if you don't know how to manage debt and just taking loan, it will be a different thing. Example like credit card, students. Credit card is good for certain people, but not good for certain people. People who don't know financial management should never use credit card. So students, are you understanding there can be signaling effect? And I can go to the next one is corporate governance. Because corporate governance questions can arise. Can I write down here corporate governance with regards to high borrowings? With regards to high borrowing. Doctor, can I ask you that question? Let's assume you are an investor in this company. Will you ask the management, why are you borrowing so much money? Is there a chances like that, students? Can there be a possibility like that, doctor? Just asking from you, like corporate governance. Will you ask the board of directors, why are you borrowing so much of money? You are
Yeah,
investor.
they can definitely ask, and you will always have an answer that borrowing is cheaper.
Yeah. So can I write down here risk committee? So I'll write down here risk committee, and risk committee in this case needs to be very much careful about financial risk. Now, doctor, in our precinct material, did they mention anything with regards to financial risk in this? In this, do you see anything with regards to financial risk?
No,
So is that a corporate governance issue, doctor?
it is.
If you are an
Yeah.
investor, it is. So this is skepticism. Hamzat, do you understood that point?
Yes, sir.
Now,
Please.
if you see in the risk register, they never explain anything
Yeah.
related to the financial
Financial
risk. Correct? No. Now,
Yes, sir.
students, now I think Hamzat, everyone knows what happened to Sri Lanka. Now,
Yes.
financial risk was not exposed for a long time. Correct or not correct, Hamzat? If I'm
Yes,
not mistaken,
we
no
have
one
not.
knew. No one knew what is called dollar reserve. Correct, no, Hamzat, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
They were
And the
hiding.
dollar reserve came into the idea when people understood there were no gas to
Yes.
buy. That is the learning. So students, now this financial risk is a question that can arise. Now don't memorize everything, but your mind should be open like a parachute. Then only you can think more. So financial risk, students, is not reported governance issue because it's compulsory that the management should update this to the shareholders, because if the shareholders invest and later comes to know this company has a lot of loan, it's a bigger issue. I'll just write down here risk register, and I'll put a question mark also. Now students, interest cover 2.98, 2.5, 3.22, 2.63. Now students, it's only at 2 plus 2 times, okay, but still students, anything can happen anytime. The sales are not recurring. The sales are not recurring business. Do you agree with these statements? In this case, do you think the sales are continuously repeating?
No, it's not.
Like, no. Technically, no. I believe that everyone is clear with that. Sales are not recurring business.
Only after sales will bring in money, sir.
Correct.
Unless they can
Therefore,
bring something like Apple phone. Every
correct.
year there is new version.
New version upgrade. But I don't think, doctor, people will be able to afford that. Correct, no, doctor, if I'm not
Yeah, they
mistaken.
don't buy robots like that. No, the businesses
Robots like that. It won't. So therefore, there can be a situation where the supermarket price war, what is this, student? Supermarket price war may impact the revenue in the future. Students, are you getting that sentence of supermarket price war affecting the revenue in the future? Because something happens to the supermarkets, something happens like that, your business will be down. Makes sense, no, students, if I'm not mistaken? Can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, student? The supermarket price impact may affect? Now, I'll again come to these things because it's very, very practical. Don't misunderstand. I'm using Sri Lanka too much as example because that's a very good industry analysis. Hamzat, now can you remember, Hamzat, the population who are doing CIMA is less in Sri Lanka compared to the earlier. The reason is what no one predicted the exchange rate issue.
Yes.
Correct? No?
Ganesh,
So that is
financial
one thing,
difficulty,
students, we have to think intercorrelated. A supermarket getting bankrupt, it will affect our business because the main reason our robots are taken is for speed. And if supermarkets get affected, our warehouse gets affected. If our warehouse gets affected, there will be a bigger issue for our robots also. So that is a impact. So anything can happen anytime. Just keep that in mind with regards to the supermarket price war. Supermarket price.
Just
Yes,
one
please.
point. With regard to the other company behind this scenario having more margin would be that they are on autonomous products. Not that the autonomous products are giving margin, but after sales gives margin. For example, vehicles, if you take, sir, selling of vehicles gives less margin, but the after sales give us more margin actually. So I don't know whether
wonderful,
robots also have the
wonderful way
same thing.
Hamzat, can I say this one? Now, if you say Hamzat, I am thinking like this. There is something called mobile robot coordination, the operating systems. Correct, no, Hamzat? Now,
Yes.
if you see centralized, distributed, and mixed, I think this it's an inbuilt. All robots are controlled by central software. Now, this software is another, I can say, critical product for our businesses to generate recurring revenue, like license renewal. Can I agree on that? Doctor, do you agree with that, doctor? Software license renewal, like Microsoft 365, they are asking people to renew. That is one thing because one thing, students, if you observe this, it's very clear that you see software development cost. Do you see, students, they are investing? Do you see here, students, software development cost? And here also our competitor, you see software development cost. Do you see there, students? So software is one thing that may contribute to the revenue indirectly. And I think, students, I'll just write down one thing so that it's very easy. UX and UI, you would have heard. UX stands for what, students? User experience. Correct, no, students, if I'm not mistaken. And UI stands for what, students? User interface. Correct, no, students. Now, certain softwares, when they're attractive to the user, very easy to use, again, students, there are high tendency that these softwares can effectively generate more margin as well. So, students, any questions you like to ask, you can let me know, students.
So just one point, will there be path changes in robots constantly?
Maybe, depending on the, I can say, wear and tear. What do you think? Depending on wear and tear.
Actually, I'm from vehicle industry. I just came to my mind. We have only 6% margins in selling vehicles, but 34%, 35% in after sales. So basically, I don't know. This is what is, I mean,
practical, because mostly capital expenses go in this manner, because you are perfectly correct. Now, example, I will come to another business which is capital industry. Now, I'll speak to Aina madam. Aina madam, are you there? Can we have a quick discussion, Aina madam?
Yes,
Now,
yes.
now, Aina madam, if you see Mitsubishi lift is there, right? If we observe. Now, if you see a Mitsubishi lift. Now, if you see in every places, they use Mitsubishi lift, or there is another brand called Otis. Now, if you look at this lift industry, again, it is making people move from top to the bottom. So, do you think a company will rebuy again and again a lift? No. They'll just buy lift, and it will be for a period of 10 years like that. But in this 10 years, there needs to be some additional income to be generated. That may be after sales service, if I'm not mistaken. So, students, I believe you got that clarity there. I think, Hamzat, you are correct. Hamzat, you are correct with regards to that. Correct. No, Dr. Sharmin, did you understand the Mitsubishi lift logic?
Yes, I just have one small question. So when you're talking about Microsoft 365, it's the Microsoft 365 is the product. But in case of robots, when you're talking about operating systems.
No, thank you. Are you continuing? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, when you're talking about robots, operating system is a built-in thing in the robots.
Wonderful. So can I move forward?
Yeah, so how can we generate money from this software development?
Very good. Now I'll come to iPhone. Now, if you see, Dr. Alex considered iPhone and robot. iPhone is a hardware, no, Doctor. We touched the iPhone, no, Doctor. The exterior part, correct, no, Doctor, if I'm not mistaken. But have you heard something called iCloud, Doctor? Within the iPhone, it comes, the storage. They charge money. Now, if you're an iPhone user, you need to pay $0.99 per month for iCloud. And they may have iMusic, if I'm not mistaken. So what happens is this robot will be an exterior. Do you see this robot is an exterior here? Correct, no, Doctor? Do you see here? But within the robot, there will be a centralized software. There will be a distributed software. And there will be a mixed one. Are you understanding what I'm saying, Doctor? I don't know. I'll come to the garments industry. Now, in the garments industry, embroidery machines were there, no, Doctor, if I'm not mistaken, earlier. That means like Nike embroidery, it will automatically, the machine will do. So in the garments industry, what happens is, earlier we did not have internet or anything. Correct, no, Doctor? Bluetooth technology was not there. So we didn't have much facility, but now we have everything cloud. So what happens is these embroidery systems will charge you money for the software, like SAP. Correct, no, now SAP is integrated in business functions. So I think this mobile robot coordination is one part where the software also is effectively, the thing is, the software only prevents what? Collusion. Are you understanding what I'm saying, Doctor? The software prevents the collusion. Clear, no, Doctor, if I'm not mistaken. Are you getting that?
So once the software is bought, you will not go and buy the software again, would you?
No, it is inbuilt. It is inbuilt. You get what
That's
I'm
what
saying,
I was
Doctor?
saying. It's inbuilt. So how can I generate money?
Because you will be charging a license fee. That inbuilt software is only for a 1-year period. You understand what I'm saying, Doctor? And then when there is a system up, the renewal of the software, it will get updated. Are you getting that point of view, Doctor?
Okay, yeah, now I understood.
Understood. No, so students, one thing, our software is very critical. Yeah. Okay, I believe everyone is fine. So let's move forward with the next one. I'll just make sure that is connected. So I'll just write down here. The current ratio, quick ratio, students, if you observe, it is effectively 2.34 and 1.40. Students, industry-wise, this is normal. I can generally say managed well. So I'll write down here. Based on the industry norm, these ratios are effectively managed well, because students, you have 2.3, that means your current assets is 2 times your current liabilities, and quick ratio also is fine at the moment if you take out the inventory out, so there is not an issue. And here the challenge is, the biggest challenge for us is, if I'm not mistaken, I'll just connect all these things together in the working capital. The bargaining power is very less for the producer. The bargaining power is very less to the producer, since we produce a support service. Are you understanding that point of view, students? Can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box? We only produce what service, students? We only produce a support service. Are you clear with that, students? We only produce a support service. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, students, coming to the next one, so that it will be very easier, very clearer as well. So the bargaining power is very less to the producer. We produce a support service only. Further, there are chances where a company will have to make sure that they have good credit policies as well. Credit policies as well, because that is very, very important. Because technically speaking, I'll just explain this. Your inventory is 68 days. Your warehouse, your robots will be staying for 68 days. Then you will be giving it to your customers or clients, and then they will pay you money in 75 days. So totally for 143 days, you have to be patient to collect the investment funds or the working capital fund you invested for your day-to-day operations. And then there will be something called the payables day. That is, your people who gave you the components will come to you and ask money. So if you see all the three, all of us are effectively having a working capital issue, but I can say this can be an industry practice, because customers, other player also is having the same. This can be an industry practice, because this is the industry practice, I can generally say. And if you have worked in a manufacturing, I think even Hamzat may know, vehicle industry goes similar to this, but the only difference is customers are not paid or given on credit. Correct? No, Hamzat, because here only vehicle industry survive. Correct? No, Hamzat, if I'm not mistaken, maximum 10 days or 6 days. But if you see this industry, since we are a B2B business, our clients will pay later. Now, example, students, just to make you clear, we have this one, right? Tesla Food. They will not immediately give you money. They will take at least 1.5 months. They'll see whether this is functioning well, and then only they will pay money. Example, doctor, if you are constructing a house, especially in Asia, correct, doctor? Will you pay the full money to the contractors? No, doctor. Partially, no, doctor, if I'm not mistaken. The reason is if you pay the full, if you pay the full money, the biggest problem is your after sale service will not be good. Agree, no, doctor? They may not come back to you when you pay the full money. So that is the rationale, the industry practice. People break it down and sell it. Dividend payout 22%, and the interest, I can say, in this technical norm, that is the theory norm, dividend looks expensive compared to dividends looks expensive compared to debt, compared to what, students? Compared to debt. Therefore, students, this is not tested now, but I will tell you something called Modigliani and Miller. I think there is a theory area called Modigliani and Miller. Now, not coming in the exam, but you need to know this, students. Modigliani and Miller, preposition 2 will be there. And the other one, students, signaling effect can come into the picture. Signaling effect. Now, one thing, students, all what we do in the class gives you a thinking, but exam paper will be completely like unknown, very, very different from what we discuss in the class. So this is the aspect. So if you see, students, beta factor is 0.91, I believe. That is very, very clear and practical for the students at the moment. Can I quickly get a confirmation? That means this industry is less risk. I will tell you why. Why it is less risk. How many players are there in the industry? How many players?
6.
How many sound?
6.
So 6 players means very less, no, students, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, it is 6. So beta factor needs to be less because of less competition. And the other thing, students, if I am not mistaken, students, long-term relationship. Correct, no, students? Long-term relationship. This is true, no, students? AC. Now, doctor, if you are installing an AC in your house, you will always think short-term or long-term, doctor. What will be your thinking, doctor? Long-term, no, doctor. Whatever said then. No?
Yeah. Long
So that's the reason. So in this case, the startup stage is very hard. But once you achieve the growth stage, it's all maintaining the relationship only. So that is the factors that we have to consider. But if you see as an insight of the conclusion is Robots is dominating the market. And if you see our business, I think the biggest issue is our Dahlan factory, because we are still producing the items which are now not considered in the market. So one option we have is we can go for countries which are having less growth. Now, if you go to a country like USA and sell forklift, you will fail because those countries are differentiating their process. And students, just to be very clear and precise, the share price has gone to the top and it has been until 250, it has gone up. And currently, students, it is somewhere in 100. Correct, no, students? From 250, it has come down to 100 at the moment. So can you remember, students, if I am not mistaken, in this case, when this is growing, we call it as the bull market. Correct, no, students? When the share price is going up, it is called what market, students? Bull. Correct, no, students? Agree? Bull. Now, the shares are effectively what, students? Effectively what, students? Coming down. Then we call it as what market, students? Bear market. Doctor, are you okay with these terms, doctor? Just asking. Any confusion, please let me know.
I heard the term, but I don't remember the
I'll
meaning behind it.
just tell you the logic behind it. Now, if you see a buffalo, doctor, how will a buffalo attack you? From the horn. Correct, no, doctor, if I'm not mistaken. Now, let's assume you are a human being. Okay. So this is a buffalo. Buffalo, will it put you down or will it take you up? It will take you up. Correct,
Up.
no, doctor?
Yeah.
But bear, the attacking style of a bear is how? Will it carry you or it will put you down and attack you? It will put you down and attack you. You understand what I'm saying, doctor? So I'll
Very
just
nice
come
logic.
to, this is the real logic. This is what we call it a bull market and the bear market. So I'll just give you an idea about what happens in the bull market. In the bull market, you have to hold. You should not sell the shares. You have to hold. And if you hold the shares, you will make what gain? You will make what gain? You will make a capital gain. Are you understanding what I'm saying? But if you are observing a bear market, the prices are going down. The best thing is when the prices are going down, you have to buy. You have to buy because the prices can effectively go up in the long term where you can make a gain. Are you understanding how the bull market and the bear market logics are applied? So these are the two extremes in the stock market. So this is the EMH, we call it as efficient market hypothesis. Hamzat, are you fine with the bull market and the bear market logic,
Yes, sir,
Hamzat?
it's clear, sir.
It's clear, right? Ayana, madam, are you clear with the bull market, bear market logical idea?
Yes, sir, I know.
Thank you. Thank you. So students, currently, if I'm not mistaken, we can just make sure we can buy the shares. But the main issue is currently the debt is dominating this. So this is one factor to be considered. So effectively, students, these are the factors here. So any questions you like to ask me, you can ask me. But one thing, students, as I told you, environment concern is extremely poor, if I'm not mistaken. And if you see, another thing is the social well-being, they are saying it's a little bit of narrow area. So let's come to the one-to-one discussion. So doctor, any questions for the day?
Just one regarding the buying and selling of shares. So it's us. So why would we buy our own shares? We will not be buying our own shares. It's the investors.
No, it's us means doctor, shareholders. Correct, no, doctor. Now this company, corporate governance come into the play where shareholders must be treated equally. Public investors, you get the logic there, doctor. So let's assume anyone who has money can invest in a public company. That is the logic. Clear, no, doctor? If it's clear, that means it will be on the flotation. Flotation means, now let's assume there will be, anyone who has invested can sell. Anyone who wants to buy this, they can buy. That is only flotation. Let's assume in this case, if they are issued 1,000 shares, this 1,000 shares is in flotation. People hold, people can sell. But the logical idea is not us. Us means the public. For the public, the advice is in a bull market, better to hold it. In a bear market, better, when the bear market is going to start, you have to sell it and effectively make the gain. And when the prices are going down, you have to buy it because I think you will be aware, business cycle in economics. This we call it as the boom area. And if I'm not mistaken, this is called as the slump area. So slump area is where recession, everything is taking place. And boom area, if I'm not mistaken, is the prosperity area, the boom area. So that is the understanding. Is that fine, doctor?
Yeah.
Hamzat, any questions for the day?
Yeah, only one small doubt, sir. In the current asset ratio, when we compare the current asset ratio and the working capital, it's having negative correlationship. I mean, I might be wrong, just correct me, sir. It may be because of we recognizing revenue in full, the current asset ratio is looking good. Is it so?
No.
Maybe one
Thank you for
reason?
asking. No, thank you very much for asking that question. So if you see, current asset ratio is a statement of financial position ratio. It doesn't have any impact with the performance.
Correct, sir.
So current asset means this section. Okay.
Yeah.
Inventory, trade receivable, bank. No relationship with revenue. Trade receivable, you can say credit revenue may come. Correct? No, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
that was my point, sir. Actually, we will recognize as a receivable because service revenue wouldn't have been received by that time.
Correct. And I'll just come and finish this. So current liability, even the logic of tax liability can come. Because actually tax liability is not related to the operation. It's a government liability. Correct? No, Hamzat, if I'm not
Correct,
mistaken.
sir. Understood.
It's
Yeah.
not a business liability. So in
Yeah.
this case, what your point of view is perfectly correct. The reason is we are giving them around 60 days credit time. And that is the main reason, if I'm not mistaken, we are having a better current ratio. Correct? No, Hamzat, if I'm not mistaken. But have you heard something called promissory notes, everything, Hamzat?
Yeah.
There is
PDC,
something called, promissory notes. And we have, if I'm not mistaken, promissory note is there, and CDs, no, if I'm not mistaken, what is the LD? No?
LCs.
LC, letter of credit. So
Yes,
promissory notes and letter of credit can be a source, because if you see, when you are going to do a facility, you will effectively
correct, sir.
get a terms of consent, and this can be utilized to get bank overdraft.
Correct.
Like if you want bank overdraft, you can use your trade receivables thing. And another thing is we call it as invoice discounting also. That is
Yeah.
also possible.
So that might be
Is
the
that
reason that current asset ratio is looking, sharp, and then you have a working capital of stretched working capital. No,
very, very stretched working capital? And
Yeah.
practically speaking, manufacturing sectors very, very difficult because the value system is very huge. So technically, it is the same, because since you are in the car industry, the
Yeah,
value
yeah.
chain, you can apply that very practically in that sector.
Correct, sir. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Ayana madam, any questions?
No, sir, no questions as such. But
Thank you.
I can share one thing is that when I was in the banking industry and we buy the co-banking solution, actually the product was priceless. But every license for each bank user, they were charging. And also
They were
the
charging.
AMC cost, AMC cost also were high. And also, if you want to customize each module, that also cost were high to the banking. So this is how they made the profit, not from the product, but from all these areas.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, madam. So that is one business model, that you give the product, you give the hardware, but you charge for the software, like the printer and the ink. Now, printer is cheap, ink is expensive. Mr. Jose, any questions?
So I forgot the signaling effect.
Signaling effect is market, how they prefer. Now, can you remember signaling effect means? Now, for example, if they say, I'll give you an idea. ChatGPT came. So ChatGPT is a positive signal for Microsoft investors. Why? Because it's an innovation. No, you understand what I'm saying.
Sure.
And even if you see Apple iPhone 15, no development, very few enhancement. Correct, no,
changes,
Mr. Jose?
not much
So
changes.
that's a negative signal. And signals can take place not only based on your decision, based on the other decision. Now, Canada and India issue. Again, that can be a signaling effect to the transactions between Canada and India. Correct, no, Mr. Jose, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure.
So that is signaling. Signaling effect means like weather forecast. Before it's going to rain, you will get a signal like the clouds are turning gray. That is signaling effect. Is that fine?
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Mr. Lennon, any questions for the day? Mr. Rahul, any questions for the day? Mr. Lennon, yes.
No, no question.
Thank you.
No,
Mr.
sir.
Rahul,
Thanks.
any question? Thank you. So students, thank you very much for your wonderful time. So let's meet up on the Sunday class, where I will be teaching you the strategy canvas. because in this industry there are no proper data, so we have to create our own data to think. So I will do the strategy canvas and I will teach you how to write answers in the examination this Sunday class. It's at 10:30 a.m. morning. So see you on Sunday, students. Thank you very much. Take care, students. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.